This stuff isn't stuff that HR makes up. A lot of people be like, HR, what do? We going back on regulations and laws that are put in place. I don't like pulling stuff up out my ass, even as an HR professional. Hey y'all, this is Tamika, the face behind Hey HR. And let me just start by saying, I'm not going to tell you if I think you voted right or wrong. I mean, only person or only type of people that I'm like, hold up, you're kind of killing me,
is the folks who didn't vote at all.
I think we should always vote. I get it. Some people have some religious preferences. I have family members that didn't vote because of their religious preferences. Obviously, I'm not a part of a religious background or affiliation or denomination that does not encourage voting. So I ain't gonna tell y'all who I wish should have won or who I wish should have lost. I'm just gonna tell you how politics plays in the workplace, because this is for all of us, regardless of how you voted. Every single time there's a presidential election, then there's candidates that's put in place. When they talk about who's dominating the House, who's dominating Congress, all of that plays heavily into if any political new ideas are going to impact you in the workplace. So if you really want to know about how the basics foundation is, then y'all, I did a full blog where I wrote out, not only the two different the presidential candidates. I not only put in how the candidates have already had their own agendas on what they wanted to do, but I also gave a good framework of like, how can this impact the workplace? That goes for HR folks, that goes for business owners, that goes for executive leaders, that also goes for the regular employee, that goes not only just for corporate, but that goes for regular blue collar workers, white collar workers, like whatever you want to call them. It affects most people. I'm going to start by just talking about some of the laws and regulation changes, right? We haven't had any yet that directly impact the workplace yet, right? It affects benefits. So if you guys remember back in 2010, here comes the ACA, which we all refer to as Obamacare. A lot of people hated it. I must admit, I think the most frustration I heard from it was from insurance brokers, insurance carriers, mainly because it was going to, or a lot of people expected that it was going to put a lot of cost onto the insurance company, right? It did impede some costs on the insurance company. We now have preventative measures already paid for us. So before Obamacare, we didn't have these preventative things that were paid. You still had to pay a copay when you get there. You still had to look out for a bill if you had a high deductible plan. And so it really, in my opinion, worked for all of us because insurance companies make a lot of money. I can't tell you how many times in my career I've navigated, negotiated insurance rates so that we can say how much you're going to pay out of pocket, what's included, what's not. And like, I've managed benefits from, I think as high as I've managed was like maybe 3 million. Then another million. I've managed some that's in the hundreds of thousands, but this is money we're paying to the insurance company. A portion of it does go to your broker if you have a broker. Most people have a broker, but it goes to the insurance company, and that's the money that's coming out of your paycheck every pay period. And so I feel like insurance companies make so much money. Yeah, y'all pay for that preventative stuff and give us a break. It also has helped us where, you get credit, you get a tax credit for having insurance. Now, I do feel bad for the people that may not have had insurance for one reason or another. Now you get hit with a tax cost. I think that's the biggest thing. Is that you get this cost if you don't have insurance, you didn't pay for insurance. But beyond that, honestly, it really has worked in a lot of our favors. Okay. Now let's talk about some state mandates, because like some benefits, that's one benefit, right? If we really wanted to talk about more benefits, we can talk about back when President Clinton was president. Here we come with the FMLE. Yeah, a lot of us might not have been, or a lot of folks, because I ain't gonna speak for myself, but a lot of folks may not have been Democrats, right? But he put an FMLE. Before we had FMLE, you go out, have your baby, come back to work, and you ain't got no job. Now, you're protected when you go out on FMLE. Yeah, FMLE doesn't pay you. I think that's where people get confused. But it secures your position. That's the first thing it does. Second thing is it keeps you equal and whole so that somebody can't say, well, she would have done an amazing job if she wasn't out having her baby. Now, they can't say that. I can't tell you how many times initially, earlier in my career, where people would literally put that into a performance review. And I'm like,
I'll take that out. That ain't got nothing to do with her work. What work she did the whole time she was here? Because majority of the years she was here.
That type of thing. So there are tons of benefits that can be changed based on a political election or the government or what have you. Another thing is state mandates, right? So a lot of people may not realize, but like there are a lot of things that HR does that's going to be different from state to state. It's just going to be, especially when we start talking about California, New York, Massachusetts. Those states have high employee focused regulated policies in place. When we talk about other places, not all states are ones where you can have that flexibility of not having a contract. Some states you need to, some states you don't. That's a reason why I live here in Charleston, South Carolina, right? So that's a reason why Boeing, Volvo, BMW is upstate, but all of these manufacturing places moved here because we don't have where everyone automatically is in a union. So a lot of companies came here because they want to avoid that union stuff, right? Another thing is marijuana. This is a good example because marijuana is legal in some states and not other states. Now, when you put in a law like that, where it's a little confusing, now you see that a lot of companies are no longer doing background screenings that include the use of marijuana. Or you can say, I just moved from California, I just moved from Colorado, and now we don't even look at your marijuana use because you're in a state where it was legal. Cool. So like, this stuff isn't stuff that HR makes up. A lot of people be like, HR, what do? We going back on regulations and laws that are put in place.
I don't like pulling stuff up out my ass.
Even as an HR professional. And so I kind of like having that stability that I can fall onto. Again, this is how politics plays into the workplace, right? No different than same-sex marriages. A lot of people would have this spouse or this living partner for 20 years and you can never put them on your benefits. Now that we have, before it was statewide, right? Each state would decide if same-sex marriages were legal. Now that it's federal, a whole bunch of people got their spouse on their benefits that could not have happened before. So I know you may be like, well, Tamika, all your examples Democrat focused. Child, I can't think of no other ones right now. But there are tons on both sides of the fence. I like background screenings because they keep my employees safe. They're going to divert people who are aggressive, people who are lose their cool at any point, people who are ready to respond in a violent way. Most times that retracts those people from wanting to apply or being able to apply or get employed. So that's the reason I like it. Outside of that, I do feel like a lot of people made one bad mistake. They served their time and they're rehabilitated. So they should come into any job that they want to. So I will say with our current president-elect, Trump's going to be our president again in January, and he is a convicted felon. So personally, I feel like, all right, we need to look at these background screening minimum requirements. Because if we got a president who could be a convicted felon and manage our country, then a lot of these people who can't work because they had one charge or they had whatever, we really need to make it available for them too. So that's just something I'm hoping that's a law or regulation I'm hoping for. It's not one that's in place. The next way that politics can affect you at work is your culture or your environment. Y'all, you can have people who have been the best work besties that start questioning their friendship or their loyalty to this friendship because of maybe who this person said they voted to or who this person may have alluded that they would vote for. And personally, I've had better conversations with people who I know probably don't think the same way I do think politically. And we talk through those things. And then when we talk through them, that's when I make my decision on if I want to keep this relationship or not. I think it's so sad because I feel like that's became more of a heightened issue now with most recent elections. Like, I won't say just from this election because I noticed it earlier on. Back in the day, people would just ease on out, vote, come back with a sticker. People just happy you voted. All right, that's my friend because you voted. Now people are like, I think they vote for so-and-so. I don't know if I'm messing with them. Personally, a lot of us go on who we're voting for based on just our family. If our family are Republicans, we vote Republican. If all of our family are Democrats, we vote Democrats. One thing that I found so enlightening is because, just so you know, I'm a girl that loves Love is Blind. And so from Love is Blind season 7, the most recent one, I thought it was interesting in the pods where this guy said,
well, I always voted Republican because my family was Republican. But the last two elections, I looked at the actual candidates in place and did my research, and that's what helped me to determine who I was going to vote for.
So he said that the previous election, he voted for Trump. He said the next election, he voted for Biden. He said he's still feeling like he's not sure exactly who he wanted to vote for this election. I found that to be so interesting because so many times we really go and we date people based on who we think their political affiliation is when we don't really talk about it. And sometimes we miss out on real love because we don't talk about something that was kind of pushed into us, right? Just like racism. Like, I shouldn't bring that up on this topic, but so many people get upset about racism when I've seen some people who are like, I have a couple work friends who are like,
You know, I grew up thinking this way because that's how my family was, but honestly now, I realize that shit was racist as fuck.
and like, I appreciate that enlightenment because there's some ways that I did have done that aren't correct. It wasn't until I was in the workforce one day and the company gave us something and then they were like, nah, we're going to take it back. We're going to give y'all this instead. And I was like, man, y'all Indian giving. And one of the directors was like, ooh, you HR. That's so racist. You shouldn't say that. And it had been something that my family says so often, I didn't even realize could be offensive. I think I had watched like Married at First Sight when a guy got upset about the fact that he was like his family generation was Indian and like this girl said something that was offensive and he got completely upset with her. There's little things like that that if somebody doesn't educate us, we still do the wrong things or we do things that just become familiar to us because of the people we're around. So I encourage y'all, before y'all cut off these work relationships, like have a conversation with the people you actually care about. Some people you'd be like,
Child, I've been cutting off that relationship before, so ain't no big deal.
but there's some people that, in my case, I had a coworker, her husband would come by when I first bought my house. He came by and did all the mail things I needed done around the house, putting up my floating shelves, mounting my TVs, things like that. And it wasn't until Black Lives Matter movement happened that we talked about racism and like presidential elections. And she was like, man, I'm enlightened. And she challenged her family to think differently because she was like, I don't want my kids raised this way with these kind of racist thoughts. And she was like, I had a conversation with my grandmother who was, 90 something years old, 80s, late 80s. I think that that's a good thing. I'm not trying to push people to always talk about one particular topic or another. I'm just saying before y'all go into the workplace and disturb the workplace over these personal beliefs, like kind of get some evidence behind your decision. The second thing with culture and environment is, working from home, we don't think about political decisions impacting us. But yeah, if it wasn't for the pandemic where the federal government, like everybody stay at home, so many people would have never experienced working from home. I'm so happy I did. Like I used to work hybrid before and it was so hybrid, but you could kind of say I worked 50-50. I traveled a lot and other times I work from home and then there are very few times I go into the office. And so for me, it wasn't new, but there are a lot of people that was something very new to them. It also made other people think differently about people that work from home. Not everybody. Some people think you work from home, you don't do nothing, right? So especially blue collar workers, they think, oh, you got life easy because you just work from the house, right? But there are some people that live with a spouse that started working from home and they see like,
Oh my God, this what you do all day?
it probably helped or hindered relationship problems that really no one had ever known because you hear somebody go to work, you don't really know what they do. So it was the federal government that kind of really pushed that work. It was a pandemic, really. But if the federal government didn't say, hey, you guys are mandated to work from home, then we still would have been going into the office, getting sick and dying, child. The next thing is obviously DEI initiatives. And so y'all, I ain't even about to go through and tussle with y'all in the comments. Like what I have been doing now is when people come and they're being rude as hell to me, I just block them and report them because I've literally had people trying to call me the N-word multiple times on these DEI videos, which blows my mind because I'm like, child, you see the thumbnail, you don't know I'm a black girl. Like, what do you think I'm about to talk about? And then you want to call me words that I appreciate YouTube for barring. So you guys don't really get to see these comments all the time because sometimes they're held for me too. They're held so that I can approve them. If they're positive comments, they just go right through. But when they have certain words and stuff like that, then YouTube will help me out with it. But DEI initiatives really are impacted by political views. So I have a video that's coming up and it's going to talk about all of these companies that have reduced or eliminated their DEI initiatives. Most of them reduced it. I also have a blog, several blogs that are talking about these different companies like Microsoft and Ford. I believe those are the two that I've done so far. But child, let me tell you something. I did one video that tells you exactly what DEI is. I took the comments off because some of the comments were just so rude. And I was just like, y'all ain't about to disturb my peace. Because you don't even know me besides this one damn video. But I did that video. Every video I talk about, every blog I talk about, I'll have in the description box so that you guys can check it out. And I encourage you to check it out. I encourage you to put comments and like ask me questions. Like, I'm fine. I'm not a person that feels like my way or the highway. Like, I like being challenged on my thoughts. I like continuously learning. But DEI initiatives have not been directly impacted by political views yet. I truly feel like this wave of DEI concerns and adjustments to DEI initiatives are really because people were seeing how the presidential election or presidential campaign was going. No different than when 2020 happened and we had all the Black Lives Matter movement and everybody was talking about it and you saw political parties supporting it and you saw different changes that were happening because of it, that people elected to increase their initiatives on DEI. So we can say whatever we want to say, but political adjustments, political movements, political mandates are all things that really have directly impacted the workplace. All right, so we already talked about laws and changes. We already talked about culture and environment. The last things are our expectations from our employers. Our expectations from our employers do change sometimes based on political differences or political changes. And so one thing is like a safe space to share feelings, right? We expect our employer to create a safe space so that we can share feelings, thoughts, or what have you when it comes to things that happen politically. One example I'll give you is I'm in several ERGs, employee resource groups. They're driven by our DEI group and department, and they're really to get not only folks that are in a certain minority community, but also allies of that community to not only educate others, but to help others in any type of way understand different types of diversity initiatives. And it's not just about ethnicity. We have like 8 or 9 different ERGs. Some of them are about Christianity. Some are about mixed families as far as like, or I'll say blended families. Some are about sustainability and like just being more sustainable in the environment. And we're creating ones about military or veterans. And so then we have all the ones that are race related, right? Or gender related, like we have a female one. Because of this election, we had ERG and one of our ERGs put together a moment so that everyone could vent about the election. And then that moment, I was enlightened about so many people that honestly, I didn't even realize I had prejudged. And like, we would not have had that moment to talk about that in the workplace because in 13 years of working in human resources, I have never, ever talked about politics at work. It got to be somebody I'm real comfortable with. I might hint something or whatever. But publicly to like the employees, that ain't a topic I'm touching. Just like I'm not touching religion either. So like those aren't things that I touch at work. Mainly because I want us to just stay focused on work. Like, however you believe at home, you believe at home. It ain't good or bad. It's just how you believe, right? And so I think that when we just stay focused on the work, then we do good shit. Simple. Stay focused on your work. Knock the shit out. Get more money. Go home. Have fun. And do whatever it is that you want to do. Just be respectful to your coworkers while you're here. But we do have this expectation that our employers would keep us safe to some degree when it comes to politics. Even if it's something we don't vocalize, we still have this expectation. Even if it's something that's not written in policy, if someone says something offensive in a meeting or in a gathering, we do expect leadership to like respond and protect us, right? To some degree. I mean, I've even had someone say something very racist to me in the workplace. And I had just gotten so accustomed to like ignoring it. But I was so appreciative that my director, another director, actually 2 other directors, and my coworker, and of these 4 people, only one person was a black female like me. The rest of them were all white. And they all like dismissed his conversations, told him not to talk about it at work, allowed me to go and move away just so I can like kind of calm down because I'm internalizing these feelings. And they all apologized to me on his behalf. Ironically enough, I was working in local government and it was a police lieutenant that had just came out his mouth all twisted. That is not something that is written in stone, but yeah, I expected my director to protect me in some type of way. And that's what she did. So the last thing is expectations from our employers, and the last one is going to be safety regulations. There are a lot of safety regulations that you guys don't know about. You don't think about it until you get in that situation or you in the investigation with that situation. A lot of times we might notice them when we have workers' comp claims or we're around when a workers' comp claim takes place. There are OSHA regulations. There are workers' comp regulations. Some of them are FMLA regulations. The FMLA is really benefits, but sometimes they can get woven into workers' comp. And those things change a lot too, depending on the political party that's in place. So just letting you know that there are some things you guys are aware of and not aware of that really impacts you in the workplace whenever politics has a play in it. And politics always got a play in the workplace, y'all. Y'all just don't be knowing, child. Like sometimes some things are really helpful and some things I'm like, man, that's a headache for us and employees. But at the end of the day, I don't want to do anything except kind of get your mind thinking. If you're an HR professional or someone that's aspiring to be an HR professional, or even if you're an employee or a manager or leader, to realize that there are some things that politics is going to give a play into when it comes to the workplace. And as long as you're educated, aware, and notice whatever it is, then you'll know how to maneuver with it. Cool? If this is your first time watching a Hey HR video, then I gladly sit here with over a decade of human resources experience. I have the highest level SHRM certification, have a master's degree, actually a double MBA HR management master's degree. And I just come here to educate you all on human resources. And just get ready, child, because a little drip to it is that I'm also going to kind of help us in other spaces outside of just being a human resources professional. We think about work, but there's so much outside of work that really plays into it. Like self-care, right? We got to do self-care or we're going to go into work and sometimes HR can beat us down. Going out and having a balance for life, knowing how to cut off work from life, knowing how to balance your finances as you start and grow your career. All these things are things we're going to be talking about in future videos. I just want to start with this because listen, it's hot up off the press and y'all need to know. So for those of you who are returning, I'm so excited to have you return. As usual, I cannot wait to see you all on the next video.